A surprise witness to the January 6 Select Committee. Cassidy Hutchinson lied, told insane stories that made no sense, and then the media, both some conservative anti-Trump media and corporate press, acted like it was so shocking and true. It's laughable. Now, I know most of you don't care about January 6th, but my friends, you must be armed with information so you can talk to people when they say, "Did you see that woman who said Trump attacked the Secret Service agent?" And you can be like, actually, NBC News reported Secret Service agents are willing to testify under oath. That never happened. I'm just going to come out and say it. If you believe this woman, you have a mental impairment. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I am not saying that to insult you. I am quite literally saying it would take a special kind of person to believe this news. Because all you have to do is read it to understand it makes quite literally no sense. Then you have NBC News coming out and saying Secret Service agents will testify under oath. This stuff never happened. Cassidy Hutchinson testifying that there were AR-15s, plural, concealed along with Glocks and brass knuckles at the Ellipse, which is insane. Look, you can conceal an AR-15, fine, but the idea that there would be more than one being brought into Washington, D.C., where it's illegal, and brass knuckles, and that no one was arrested over this, and then, after leaving the Ellipse to see Trump speak, they left the AR-15s there? This makes no sense. So people came in to the Ellipse to see Trump speak with rifles, concealed somehow, and then got caught and handed over this $2,000 rifle, and they just left it there. Absolutely psychotic. You can't... The people who believe this stuff, this is the problem. Their vote counts as much as yours. These are people that if you went to them and said, "I personally witnessed Jussie Smollett's attack, and it wasn't those two Nigerian brothers, it was Donald Trump himself and Trump Jr." They would go, "Oh, that proves it." Insane. Let me show you these stories and explain to you how they're lying and why it's insane. Now, look, I want to say this. I don't care about the January 6th committee. It's such a waste of time, and this is proof. But this was such an insane story. It really does break apart the entirety of the narrative. You have to be either willfully lying or dumber than a box of rocks. During one of the most intense congressional testimonies in history, a new image emerged that will define the Trump presidency, writes the Boston Globe. They emailed me this one. That's funny. American presidents, if they are remembered at all, are remembered for an iconic image or a quick fact that both serve as shorthand and define them for history. There's a tale of how Abraham Lincoln scratched out the Gettysburg Address, a picture of FDR smoking a cigar, wearing a top hat, and waving to supporters sitting in a car. Howard Taft, above anything he did in office, is remembered for being fat. He got stuck in a bathtub. Then there was Richard Nixon flashing two peace signs as he was about to board Marine One while resigning the presidency. And Ronald Reagan, peace signs. I want to point something out, too. They're not peace signs. They're victory signs. But maybe just people don't know that anymore. When you hold up the two fingers, it's a V for victory. And that implies that with victory, there will be peace. Can I just say that? All right, blah, blah, blah. Following Tuesday's hearing of the House Select Committee investigating January 6th, a new image emerged of Donald Trump, one that may forever serve as the symbol of his chaotic and unprecedented presidency. Under oath, I love this part. Cassidy Hutchinson, a top aide to then White House Chief of Staff, recalled in detail several meetings, text message conversations, and phone calls with which she was personally involved. You see how they do that? She was personally involved. She said that after Trump returned to the White House from his January 6th speech in the mall, she ran into a Secret Service agent who asked if she had heard what just happened moments earlier in the president's vehicle. She said she had not. He told her the president got in the vehicle after his speech, believing that there was a good chance he would be driven to the Capitol ahead of the mob, when agents said they were not going to do that because they had no way to keep him safe. The agent told Hutchinson that Trump grew irate. Hutchinson said the agent relayed that Trump yelled something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president. Take me up to the Capitol now." He then reached towards the front seat to try and grab the steering wheel When the agent in the limo, known as one who was particularly loyal to Trump, told the president to remove his hands from the wheel, Trump then lunged at the agent, apparently going for his neck, Hutchinson testified. And there it was, an iconic story that will forever define the Trump presidency. Trump will be recalled as the president who attacked his own Secret Service agent in a brazen attempt to put even more pressure on Congress to overturn an election he rightfully lost. It was, of course, all based on a lie. Okay, this is insane. I'm sorry. It's absolutely insane. First of all, the idea that Donald Trump, they say he wasn't in the limo. If he was in the limo, there's no way he could have done this. Was he going to reach through the security thing they have, but separating the driver like Trump's riding shotgun? Is that what Trump's lunging from the back seat over the driver and then grabbing his throat? That's just insane. But more importantly, she said that she was told this by someone else. You see the dirty game they play? Personally involved. It's a phone. She was personally involved in being told a story by someone else. Okay. Sorry, lady, I don't buy it. It's very obvious that she's exaggerating, or like at the very least exaggerating, or just outright making this stuff up. They say even such dramatic moments don't capture this, blah, blah, blah. It was quick to be dismissed as hearsay. Yeah, it's some lady who said, I heard a guy told me this. She heard it from a friend. So I'm supposed to believe it? Okay. The important factor here, Peter Alexander of NBC News, okay? Weekend Today Show anchor. This is not some conservative source. New. Secret Service Spock's Anthony Guglielmi tells me the agents in Trump's presidential SUV are available to testify under oath, responding to Hutchinson's new allegations. A source close to the Secret Service says both men dispute Trump grabbed the steering wheel or assaulted an agent. They do not deny that Trump was irate and demanded they drive to the Capitol. Secret Service Spock's Anthony Guglielmi tells me the agents that have communicated to DHS, any and all personnel that the Secret Service are that the January 6th committee requests are available to testify under oath, responding to Hutchinson's new allegations. Okay, well, there you go. Well, what's that? They're not going to bring them in? Come on, bring them in. Bring in these other agents, testify under oath. This never happened. The January 6th committee brought in a woman under oath who then told a story she heard from someone else. Hearsay is not admissible as evidence in court. This is all one big vomitous game, and you have to be stupider than a box of rocks to believe this stuff. Next thing you know, they're going to say, Donald Trump screamed, this is MAGA country. Let me show you who's next in line to be dumber than a box of rocks. The National Review, Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony against Trump is devastating. Devastating, she says. Skillfully led through a prosecutor-style direct examination by committee chairwoman Liz Cheney. Hutchinson explained that Trump was like a wild beast at the ellipse shortly before his gasoline on the fire speech. Liz Cheney, you are just so awful. I despise the Cheneys. They're some of the most vile, vomitous, decrepit scumbags this country has ever produced. The magnetometers were vital for security. Despite it being obvious that the mags would detect weapons, many fanatics went through them anyway. Police thus seized knives, clubs, toxic sprays, brass knuckles, and so on. But that is not what most alarmed security forces. They worried about the mobs outside the ellipse, the fanatics who chose not to go through the mags because they were armed with deadlier weapons. Glock pistols, AR-15s, and other firearms. Cheney played communications traffic among the security forces, along with video depicting gunmen who were spotted in trees and elsewhere out on the mall. So the president had security forces who were armed. The president of the United States, nevertheless, was furious, Hutchinson's related, because the mob was being kept away. It spoiled the optics he had in mind. Take the effing mags away, he screamed at his aides and security personnel. Okay, I'm willing to believe, if you can prove it, that something like this happened. The hearsay thing, I just throw out the window because the Secret Service has already said they'll testify that never happened. But you want me to believe that people had brass knuckles, clubs, toxic sprays, knives. So where were all of these weapons at the Capitol during the riot? Where were the AR-15s? I mean, we saw people with flags and they smashed windows out, arrest those people and charge them. So you mean that the people who went to the Ellipse, those were the armed factions, and they turned over their AR-15s to enter and then didn't bring them to the Capitol? You can't bring an AR-15 to Washington, D.C. It's illegal. You can't bring brass knuckles to Washington, D.C. It's illegal. This is Code of the District of Columbia 224514, possession of certain dangerous weapons prohibited. No person shall, within the District of Columbia, possess any machine gun, sawed-off shotgun, bump stock, ghost gun, knuckles, or any instrument or weapon of the kind commonly known as a blackjack slung shot? What is that? Sand club, sandbag, switchblade, or any instrument, attachment, or appliance for causing the firing of any firearm to be silent, yada, yada, blah, 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 blah. You cannot bring these weapons in, okay? It's just not reality. So you mean to tell me that with all of Trump's security forces and all of the law enforcement that were around, that thousands, tens of thousands of Trump supporters were able to enter into the D.C. area with AR-15s, Glocks, knuckles, knives, etc., not a single person was stopped by the police. Not a single person had any one of these weapons confiscated. It's all one big gobbledygook lie. And only the stupidest people in the world believe it. Here's a tweet from Joe Walsh. I guess he qualifies. And don't overlook this. It was proven today that Donald Trump intended to lead an armed insurrection. He knew his supporters were armed. He wanted them armed. He wanted them to take the Capitol, and he wanted to go to the Capitol with them to be installed again as king. What? So you mean to tell me that all of these guys were armed and that Trump, he didn't tell them to bring weapons, so they didn't? I'm confused here. And it was proven today. So you mean because some lady sits down and says hearsay and other garbled nonsense that she's not privy to, it's proven? You see, this is why I don't like Joe Walsh, Bill Kristol, these neocons. They are, listen, they're stupid people. They're evil, stupid people, but boy, are they stupid. Because I'll tell you this. It's possible Joe Walsh knows none of this is true. Probably. But the idea that this would work on people, you're very stupid. But to be fair, perhaps he's gambling on most Americans just being stupid enough to believe it if they say it. It's Hitler-esque. Say the lie enough and people believe it, and that's what they do. These people are the most vile scumbags this country has ever produced. I believe in freedom, autonomy. I believe that we should let people know the truth so they can decide for themselves what matters. But these people like Joe Walsh, like Cassidy Hutchinson, are the epitome of vile evil, lying under oath. I believe, in my opinion, Cassidy Hutchinson could be doing nothing other than lying under oath. But it's judgment proof. What are you going to do? Bring on the who spoke to you and told you Trump lunged? I don't remember. Did it happen? Yeah. So you're not getting her on perjury. Under oath is meaningless. Who told you that there are weapons there? I overheard it. From who? I don't know. I heard some guy said it. Maybe he was talking about Grand Theft Auto. Oh, I wouldn't know. You can't get these people on perjury. They say in any event, Hutchinson explained the speech, like all presidential speeches, was carefully vetted by staff. White House counsel Pat Cipollone and his staff pleaded for removal of the exhortations Trump was insistent on including. Fight for me, fight for the movement, and so on. They were too close to the legal line of incitement. It was plainly foreseeable that the mob could take forcible action. If it did, White House lawyers feared that this rhetoric would place Trump squarely in legal jeopardy for whatever mayhem resulted: obstruction of congressional proceedings, intimidation, and assault on federal officials, and so on. The rhetoric stayed in the speech. So did Trump's vow that he would be marching to the Capitol with the mob. Yeah. If you tell me that Donald Trump told the drivers to bring him to the Capitol, I believe it. Trump said he was going to head down to the Capitol. While Trump was speaking, people were already there at the Capitol. I believe Trump was still speaking when the people breached the barricades. I don't think, Trump said we're going to peacefully march and then cheer on politicians. I think Trump was hoping that Pence would reject this, that all of these other Republicans would contest the election or whatever, and he didn't have the support. Pence didn't do it. I don't think he expected the riots or anything like that. That was the single most damaging thing to Donald Trump, and it's the weapon and cudgel they use against him. If it did not happen, Trump would be in a much better position. On 5/29, there was an insurrection at the White House. Far leftists ripped down the barricades, tried to breach the actual White House, set fire to White House, a guard post, and a church, forcing the president to flee into a bunker. That happened. But you see, the issue is the police stopped them and cleared them out. Republicans don't know how to play the game the Democrats play. If the Democrats were in the White House and Trump supporters were at the White House, they would let them tear the barricades down. They'd pull the cops back and say, oh, no, protesters. Then they would show all the videos of the right attacking and say, we need a hearing on this. This is basically what they did. There should have been National Guard at the Capitol. There should have been more police. Many police stood by and did nothing as people did whatever they wanted. Many police officers let them in the building. Democrats allowed this to happen so that they could use it as a cudgel against Trump moving forward. Or I should say they let it happen. Clearly, that's a fact. Cops were taking selfies with these people. It was Democrats who were in charge of security in D.C. When Donald Trump was attacked in the White House on 5/29, they stopped the attack. But if Trump didn't and said, oh, no, pull the police back, we're being overrun, the protesters would have torn down the fencing. They would have then set fire to more buildings, burned down a church, and the Trump supporters would have said, what? You know, the Republicans could have been like, this country was attacked, the White House was assaulted. And then the narrative would have been inverted. But they don't know how to handle this. Republicans don't know how to play dirty. The Democrats keep claiming the Republicans play dirty, but they don't. They do stupid procedural things that matter little. They say, slow down there, Democrats. That's Mitch McConnell. What a spineless piece of garbage. And then what happens is Republicans say, we're going to compromise on gun control. Why? None of your constituents want gun control. So why would you go to Democrats to just give them what they want? Because the Republicans do nothing. And people blindly believe the most insane, garbled garbage imaginable. Trump White House attorney disputes Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony about handwritten note. Oh, she also lied about writing a note. This is hilarious. I couldn't believe it. They asked her, did you write this handwritten note? And she's like, yes, I did. And then someone else comes out and like, what? I wrote that note. This lady's just making stuff up. She's not going to get charged with perjury for two reasons. One, Democrats like what she's saying. And two, Republicans are too effing pathetic to do anything. The handwritten note that Cassidy Hutchinson testified was written by her was in fact written by Eric Hirschman on January 6, 2021. A spokesman for Hirschman told ABC News. All sources with direct knowledge in law enforcement have and will confirm that it was written by Mr. Hirschman. It's amazing. That's a note I wrote at the direction of the chief of staff on January 6th, likely around 3 o'clock. And it's written on the chief of staff note card, but that's your handwriting, Miss Hutchinson, asked Liz Cheney. These people, they lie. They are evil. They will burn this country down for power, and we all know it. They make things up. They caught her. Even NBC News exposing this. Yet there are people who refuse to admit it because they're all evil zombie people. You're going to see all the memes on Facebook. That's what I'm seeing. People saying things like, oh no, Trump knew they had AR-15s. No, he didn't. It's not even been testified that he knew they had AR-15s. It's testified that he wanted that the magnometers or whatever, magnometers were taking too long to get people in. And then they make this stuff up. And people come out and dispute it, and they just carry on the narrative. It's amazing, isn't it? That this is where we are. And I see these stories, and I see these people on the left who smirk and pretend like it's true, even though they know it's not. And there are so many stupid people in this country, they just go along with it. It's like the video where Jack Posobiec was punched. You ever see it? And then this fat leftist standing next to the police goes, nobody hit him. It never happened. Smiling and smirking. It's like Peter Strzok looking down and going, yeah, I'm going to lie under oath. There's nothing you can do about it. It's like Christine Blasey Ford, who lied her ass off. I have 2 doors because I'm scared I have to flee my house. And they're like, actually, it's because she Airbnbs. I'm scared to fly in a plane. Did you fly in a plane here? Yes. Did you fly in a plane to vacation? Yes. And these people just believe it. So this is where we are. I don't know, man. It's just the way things are. Half this country is, the Democratic voters are very stupid. And they believe this because they're lazy and stupid. And they're being led astray by evil people who lie with smiles on their faces. What more can be said? This country is being burned to the ground by these people, and they're laughing as it happens. Well, I suppose you can get out and vote and hope that the Mises Caucus, Freedom Caucus, populist Republicans can put a stop to this. And I think we're winning. These people have to lose. And they're going to lose in November, and they know it. And they have to lose in November of 2024 as well. It's the only way we put a stop to this. It really is. Because I'll tell you this, January 6th made them stronger. They used it, and it worked. Violence doesn't work. You got to win at the ballot box. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.